Hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. If you could, please tell us your name, where you're from, and a little of your background.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Buckner, and I am from Houston, Texas. And my background is in public education. I was in the Texas public school system for just over 10 years, and this is year number 8 being overseas.
Okay, and if you could, tell us what countries have you worked in?
I'm currently working in Saudi Arabia. Before that, I was in Korea, and of course, back in the United States.
Okay, great. And what was it like working in Korea?
Korea was the first time that I had gone abroad as a teacher. Before that, I was your typical American traveler, had been to Mexico and Canada, and not much further past that. So it was a fantastic country for the first opportunity going abroad. It's quite westernized. It's a relief to get off the airplane and see that there's things like McDonald's and Coca-Cola and 7-Elevens, and so it was a bit of a shock, but it was still that little bit of familiarness to it. It was not an overwhelmingly different environment. However, it was just different enough to be exciting.
And what kinds of jobs are available there for English-speaking expats?
For English-speaking expats, there's all types of jobs, from working in public schools with kindergarten through grade 12. There's also language academies that operate usually after school to help students not only work with their English, but also with homework programs. These schools are called Hagwons. And of course, there's university jobs, and then there are even language institutes that are geared towards working just with adults. Where I had worked, actually at Gyeonggi English Village, it was an English immersion program, and we actually offered 3 different types of employment where we were. We had school teachers, then we also had daytime, one-day program teachers, and then for students who would come on a one-day field trip. And then we also offered a program called edutainers, in which these were folks who used their fine art skills. Most of our folks came in with degrees in dramatics and performance, and they would come in and actually be street performers. They would put on ESL theater presentations. They would also then, we would send them out to the different schools, and they would also just work with the students to just enjoy and experience English in a more of a edutainment type of a field.
Okay, that's great. So all of these jobs that you've mentioned seem to be in the realm of education. Do you know of any other jobs that are outside of education?
Well, most of the English language jobs are tied directly towards some type of education,
Right.
Or at least with the English language aspect of it. For example, in the facility where I was working at, in Gyeonggi English Village, we had English administrators, English human resource managers, curriculum developers. Because we were an entity that worked with schools, we had people who were in marketing, and so there's all types of opportunities depending on what your interests are.
Okay, and what did a typical day look like for you in your job?
Well, it was a little different because I was actually there for 4 years. On the first year, of course, I came in working as a head teacher and as a curriculum development person. This is because my background, I was actually in school administration before I left to go to Korea. Going there, for me, a typical day would involve teacher evaluation, but also going in and teaching classes, meeting and greeting with parents, the public school teachers, the Korean public school teachers, and just facilitating the program just as I would being a program director, a team leader, a grade chair, a curriculum provider back in the United States. It was very similar. I think that's probably one thing that I noticed about the school systems in Korea and the school systems in the United States is that they're very similar. And so when you have programs such as English, a lot of times they're taught just like in our school systems in the United States, it's taught as a foreign language. However, for me on a typical day, as I said, I was a bit more in the administrative realm. So there's those opportunities depending on what you're wanting to do.
Okay, and how much can you expect to earn?
Later in my time there, I actually became the program director there, and so with the recruitment of my teachers because we were a government program. In my program, we started our teachers at 2.4 million won. In addition to that, we provided the housing, and we live on site, so transportation wasn't an issue. The only things that teachers were responsible for were just the things that you would be responsible for on your own, less a mortgage. Things like a mobile phone, if you wanted. We offered discounted internet because we could provide that on site. Your own personal entertainment, food, groceries, things like that. However, accommodations and utilities and airfare to and from at the beginning and end of the contract were all provided.
Okay, and do you think that this money is enough? What kind of lifestyle can you live with this type of income?
I felt that my money actually went further in Korea than it did in the United States. There's wonderful, delicious food that unlike going to McDonald's for the dollar value meal, you can actually go and get delicious, wonderful, fresh food for that same amount of money. When it came to entertainment, you could go to the cinemas, you could go out, there's nightclubs, places to go out dancing, there's concerts. Everything was very comparable when it comes to the United States. And there's a fantastic public transportation system. Taxis are very plentiful and inexpensive. So all in all, I think it was actually less expensive to be in Korea than in the United States.
Interesting. How much of your salary could you save, or could someone save?
Again, a lot of it is your own personal preference. I know a lot of people who came with the mindset of paying off credit cards, paying off student loans, and they were able to do some significant savings. But on that, you trade off. They did not travel outside of Korea very much. However, they could travel. Korea is a fantastic and wonderful country, and they could get on trains, buses, etc. And there's festivals all around the country throughout the year. So even if you never left the country, there's plenty to do. And so the folks who were trying to save the most amount of money did that. If there were other folks who their idea was coming over and using Korea as a hub for traveling around all of Asia. And they spent most of their salary going to China and Japan and Taiwan, the Philippines, Thailand. They're all direct, nonstop flights every day. And so it's fantastic.
But how much does someone need to start up when they initially move there? What's the amount of money someone needs as a cushion?
Sure. As always, that's all personal preference. It depends on what your lifestyle is like, what you're expecting to do when you get there. Most places, when you get there, you should understand that you will not be paid until the first pay cycle. And most of the time, that means that it's up to a month away from the time that you get there. And any salary that you receive will be prorated. So I would always recommend to the teachers who were coming in that they should plan on coming in with $1,000 just to be on the safe side. If there were things that they decided that they wanted to buy or that they would need, it was entirely up to them. We also offered that as a service, and so if you're going to take a position of employment in Korea, that would be something that you could ask your employer is, would they front you some money out of your first paycheck? And if we had any staff who wanted to do that, we would front them, and it would be the equivalency of $1,000.
So, we're ready to move, and we're kind of wondering, what's the weather like, and what should we pack for South Korea? You were in the northern part of South Korea.
I was.
Okay. So tell us about that. What's the weather like, and what should we pack?
South Korea has 4 very distinct seasons. I would say that you need to pack enough to survive through each of the seasons, but not overwhelmingly, because you can buy just about anything there. The hardest thing probably was, as you can see, I'm not a small person, so it was a little bit more difficult for me to find clothing all the time. But I brought one large suitcase with clothes. I brought one big heavy jacket, and most of the time there's every modern Western store that you can think of is there. You go into the malls and things. And for me personally, my shortcut was a lot of times, again, as a big guy, I would buy dress shirts and sweaters at Costco because they always had them, because it's a Western store. And so there's places and opportunities to buy just about anything that you would need. If you do have a favorite brand, or you have a certain size that you are, I would bring at least a couple of items for every season, and the rest of it you can supplement once you get there.
Okay, that sounds like great advice. What are some things that you can think of that you cannot find in South Korea that people should bring, if anything?
I was asked this many times by new staff when I would hire them, and the recommendation I would always tell them is bring your favorite candy, because that's the one thing that you usually cannot find in any country.
Okay.
Is your own personal favorite candy. For me, it's hot tamales. But you always have to find your own personal favorite thing. However, once you're there, there's so many different types of foods and snacks and things that you want to be a little adventurous. You'll find a new favorite. There are things that now that I'm in Saudi Arabia and I talk to other folks who've been in Korea, we all compare stories about what foods we miss from Korea that we can't find anywhere else. And so bring some of your own little favorite things. And what's nice is then when you do get that care package of those favorite candies or treats from home, they really are that much more special because you don't get them every day. However, you can find just about anything. As I said, there are Costco's there, so you can find just about anything that you would find in the States, except for, of course, regional things. I mean, I being from Texas, I was happy that my local corner store even carried Dr. Pepper. So you'll be surprised by the things that you find.